Hi, this is Alexis DBF from Troublesome Cots, which is going to soon be Precious Little Sleep. And I just wanted to take a few minutes to talk about a night weaning issue that comes up a lot. So for most parents, if you've established healthy sleep associations by removing nursing or the last bottle of the day from directly your bedtime routine, or you're no longer nursing sleep or giving a bottle as they fall asleep, the process of night weaning is pretty straightforward. I mean, it may not be as quick as you like, and there might be some step backs, with illness and things that happen. But for the most part, once your child is falling asleep without food being associated with that process, gently reducing the amount of food that's available or the amount of time that they're allowed to nurse at each feeding, you kind of chip away at it and gradually have fewer feedings for most people. For others, however, it's not as direct, and what you end up with is what I call night weaning whack-a-mole, where we start shortening one feeding and then another feeding pops up and they're sort of shuffling around. Or maybe you don't have a real predictable feeding schedule and your baby just wakes up 2 times during the night, and it could be 10 p.m., midnight, 2 a.m. It kind of floats around, and so the whole pick a feeding and shorten it strategy starts to become more challenging. So what do you do? Well, the first thing I was going to say is your goal is as an adult to get 6 hours of uninterrupted sleep. So the first thing you're going to do is think about, okay, how do we approach this so that I can create the possibility of a 6-hour stretch? For most people, going to bed prior to 9 or 10 is impossible. So you're really looking at like 10 p.m. till 4 a.m. Like, how can we carve that time out? And I'm assuming, of course, that your child is old enough developmentally to appropriately be going for a longer period of time without eating. So, if the night weaning whack-a-mole is happening to you and you're not getting any long stretches, one thought to consider is adding in a dream feed at 10 o'clock p.m., just before you go to bed. So if you feed your child somewhere in the vicinity of bedtime, but not at bedtime, they're not starving at 10, they're unlikely to be waking up to ask you for food at 10, but a proactive dream feed at 10 can buy you a longer stretch of time and push their next feeding out to 4 a.m., which again creates the possibility of 6 hours. The other option is that once you're in this whack-a-mole situation where, we shorten the 1 a.m. feeding and then the 3 a.m. feeding slides up to 2 and we haven't really made any progress, is you just continue chipping away at the feedings, progressively drawing a line in the sand that says we don't eat before this time. Meaning, a common scenario is we have a 1 a.m. and a 3 a.m. feeding. We start shortening the 1 a.m., the 3 a.m. shuffles up till 2, and in the even worse cases, you start adding in a new one at the early morning hours, let's say at 5:30. So it feels very futile and frustrating, and everyone kind of gets, feels disgruntled about that. As long as your earliest feeding is progressively later in the night, you're still making headway. So you used to be eating at 1, now you're getting till 2. So now we start chipping away at the 2 o'clock, we move out till 3, and that can actually be a workable strategy as long as we hold fast that we no longer offer any food prior to whatever the line in the sand is. So once we've weaned off the 1 a.m. feeding, food is off limits until 2. Any wake-ups prior to 2, typically you want to handle by having the non-nursing partner go in. I know this is challenging for single parents, but often that can work really well, where you just go, this is it, kid. We're not eating until 2 o'clock in the morning. For older kids who are closer to 1 or even toddlers, you can have a lot of resistance to giving up those night feeds. Sometimes you have kids who are in daycare, they prefer nursing, they take bottles during the day, but mom's home at night. It's not uncommon to have a 14-month-old who is still nursing at 2 in the morning. And parents are exhausted, but they've just struggled and struggled and struggled, and they just have kind of given up. Like, fine, whatever, we're losing this battle. For toddlers, sometimes it literally is a matter of a battle of wills. And the issue is, whose will is stronger? How much is this feeding impacting you? And I would actually suggest, again, looking at the 6 hours, 6 hours of uninterrupted sleep is the minimum number that we need to function as human beings. And I think we habituate to sleep deprivation, and so we convince ourselves that we're doing okay, but we're really not. If we were to give you like an IQ test or a manual dexterity test, you would perform significantly poorly. And I know that's hard to hear, but that's the truth. And so the reality is this is actually a problem and is working against you. So if you're in that situation with an older baby or a toddler where you've shuffled around the feedings, you've shortened them, they keep popping up, malignant mole and you're just feeling like you're not getting anywhere, at a certain point, we just need to pull some hard lines and be like, this is it. This is not an option. And how you hold that hard line can vary based on your parenting philosophy and what feels right. Some people switch from nursing to bottles because bottles are less exciting and less rewarding. Some people go to sippies for older children, say, here's a sippy of milk, here's a sippy of water, you can have that, but there's no more, formula or nursing available. And sometimes it's best just to go cold turkey. So when you have a 14-month-old who's eating at night and has thwarted all of your efforts to gently night wean, we just go, you know what, we're done. And I have said in other places not to do that. And the truth is, for most kids, that's not necessary or a particularly enjoyable experience for all involved. But after a certain point, that may in fact be the answer, especially for older kids. So I hope this helps. If you've been playing a little game of night weaning whack-a-mole yourself, give you some ideas about how to get out of it, and also to keep your eye on how do we carve out 6 hours of time, because really that's our short-term goal, is to say, well, how do we make that happen? Because everything's going to get a lot easier once we're getting 6 hours of uninterrupted sleep a night. Good luck, and I hope to hear from you soon.